bare altars and empty churches. It's the hallmarks of the springtime of Vatican II. Ever since they got rid of the Mass, the traditional Latin Mass, has been war on Catholic liturgy. They bring in the belt banners, they bulldoze the sanctuary, you got priests using guitars to do blessings and whatever the heck they want to do.
Loving God, rock with us as we roll with you.
War on the family, because the Catholic Church is no longer a serious presence to defend the family. War on faith, war on babies, war on everything true, good, and beautiful. Until today now, finally, fidelity to Jesus Christ himself is a punishable offense. Don't believe me? Just ask the Bishop of Tyler, Texas. And now, even many traditionalists, this is where I wanted to talk about the context of resistance, because even many traditionalists don't seem to fully understand what happens next after you stand up and resist. And this is where your mettle, your Catholic mettle, is tested. Because his critics are saying, oh, Bishop Strickland is folding like a cheap tent. He's not going to stand his ground. He's a coward. Well, my question to them would be, what's he supposed to do? What's he supposed to do? Crown himself Pope? Maybe barricade himself inside his own chancery office? Get some snipers up on the roof? For how long? And then what? This isn't a movie. This is the real world. And it's always been like this. They have the buildings, which means they have the power, and we have the faith. And when we resist them, which we must do, and when they condemn us for it, we're condemned. Just as Jesus Christ was condemned by the little tyrants of his day. So you got to choose wisely when it comes to the hills you want to die on. And this is what we traditional Catholics have been talking about, worrying about, warning against for 50 years. That modernists have infiltrated, that they're in charge, that they're at the heart and bosom of the church. Not in my opinion. This comes directly from a papal encyclical in 1907. Pope St. Pius X said these modernist infiltrators are at the heart and bosom of the church. He didn't say they're outside the church. If he had said that, it would have been a simpler thing. He's talking about an infiltration at the heart and bosom of the church. He never suggests they lost their office for it. He just says that's where they are, and that's where they need to be resisted and driven out. And this is the nature, the diabolical nature of the crisis in the Catholic Church. And so what are we going to do about it? Well, first of all, we have to understand what it means to be a martyr. It doesn't necessarily mean that in the temporal sense, in the here and now, you're going to be a hero and somebody's going to cue the music and you're going to be, picked up and set on somebody's shoulders and carried around in triumph. No, it doesn't mean that. It means you're going to lose everything. It means you're going to be humiliated like Bishop Strickland has been humiliated. Lost his see. They're mocking him. He's a laughing stock now, right? By the world and by his critics and by the folks in the Vatican. He's not going to lose his life, please God. But it's a dry martyrdom that he's going through. And all the martyrs back to Peter can attest to the fact that when we resist, and we must, they have the power to take everything away from us except the faith. And that's what it's all about. But neither Bishop Strickland nor any of us can go out and start a new church. Bishop Strickland must suffer with the church that God has commissioned him to serve, which is what he's doing so well, all the way now to the foot of the cross. So he's like St. John Fisher in England, 16th century England. That one of the few, in John Fisher's case, the only bishop of all the English bishops, the only bishop who was willing to stand up and lose everything, including his head, in the name of truth. So what we're seeing here, friends, please, the takeaway from all of this, what we're seeing is a glorious answer to the prayers of the faithful for decades. Do any of these guys actually believe? Is any one of them going to stand up? Or are they just going to sit there and let Mother Church be raped, scourged, and dragged through the mud every day? Does any of them believe? Bishop Strickland believes. He resisted them, and now he's been martyred. And you know what? For years now, maybe for 1,000 years, maybe all the way to the end of time, they'll be telling his story. Because he was the one. He was the bishop of our time who had the courage to believe, which is exactly how I introduced Bishop Strickland at the Catholic Identity Conference just a few months ago. And it's in that context, ladies and gentlemen, that I would like to introduce now a successor of St. John who fills our hearts and our souls and our conference and this room tonight with so much hope. So much hope because he still believes. Because he believes that Jesus Christ is God. Because he believes this church is worth suffering everything for in the defense of. And with that, Bishop X, His Excellency Joseph Strickland of Tyler, Texas. We've been doing the Catholic Identity Conference for a long time, 15 years or whatever. I never saw anything like that. The standing ovation went on and on and on. People were so grateful and so filled with hope and so filled with faith and love and charity because their shepherd had stood up and done the right thing and now he was standing with them. You know, that's what it takes. Martyrs always mean, please friends, note this. When people start getting martyred again, when they start starving the lions, and they start threatening us with martyrdom, it always means one thing. It means that the revolution has failed. It ran out of ideas. It failed to seduce us. It failed to intimidate us. And all they have left is raw, tyrannical power to hurt us. Strickland now walks in the footsteps of martyrs, whose example in the past inspired the rise of mighty Christendom, and whose example today and in the future will rebuild mighty Christendom. We must believe that. And all we have to do in the meantime is hang on. You see? Inspired by the example of the martyrs now and the martyrs that will rise up in the days to come. Truly, unite the clans, keep the faith, watch the miracles happen. Because they're happening already. They're happening all around us. Everyone's following the story of this little girl, this beautiful little baby in the UK, a sick and helpless little baby that the science had just had to kill, had to take her off life support. In such an act of depravity and evil that her own father, this little baby's father, not a religious man in the least, an agnostic, that he himself turns to God out of sheer desperation in the face of the evil that he was facing. This little baby is heaven's newest little saint. Before she left this world, her agnostic father made sure that she would spend eternity with God. He was inspired by the Christian legal volunteers who fought to save his daughter's life. And he said, "I'm not religious and I'm not baptized, but when I was in court, I felt like I had been dragged into hell. I thought if hell exists, then heaven must exist. It was like the devil was there. I thought if there's a devil, then God must exist." Friends, tonight, this man's baby is with God. Well, he did everything he possibly could to save her, but the people who own the buildings wouldn't let him do it. But the really beautiful thing is, friends, before she left her daddy, before she died, little Indi saved his soul. He told the media, "I've seen what hell is like, and I want Indi to go to heaven. In fact, I decided that me and my other daughter should get baptized too. We want to be protected in this life. We want to go to heaven. So what greater miracle, friends, could we ask for than watching the entire world seeing a father finding God in the darkness of his little baby's execution chamber? You see? And that's what this is all about. That's what we're all about. You know, the darkness has come down over the world, and we're just trying to find Christ in the darkness, follow the light of Christ out of this darkness. And the really good news, friends, is that everywhere we look, we can see this happening. More and more people are realizing if evil like that exists, then God must exist. People are finding Christ. Despite the very best efforts of men to bury him, to say that he's dead, people are still finding him in very unexpected places. Jordan Peterson. He's no Christian. Brilliant guy with some truly spot-on commentary. We used it down here before this year.